Bonjour. Welcome to Le Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rab, and it's the Age of Sigmar Stat Center today where we look at event results from around the world. This weekend, there were many Age of Sigmar tournaments, and we look at the lists and we talk about how they worked on today's show, and we talk about them in stats. Welcome to the Age of Sigmar Stat Center. Let's get straight in. Our very first event that we're going to look at is Nova. Oh no, I immediately didn't remember how many people it was. Nova had 135 players and was in the Virginia, US of A. And you can find all the links in the show notes below. So if I talk about any of the lists, you can find them in the show notes below via links, and you can go click on them. So for instance, this one is a click to a Best Coast Pairings list. A little bit of info, thanks to shout out to Warhammer Rob. The biggest event with his GHB so far, top 8 cut after 5 rounds. The top 23 were on 4 wins, so only those with 4+ big wins got through. And in the final, after the semi-finals and everything else, we ended up with Caleb and Nicholas Walters, or Scooter as he's known. Scooter and Caleb, both absolute monsters of men, and really nice. And they were playing it out on the top table for the win. So 2 brothers, which is a nice little bit of story, which is really fun. Now both of these 2 players have played with these lists for a while. I actually was over in America about a month or 6 weeks ago, and Caleb and Nicholas were both playing, I think, identical and or similar lists. Caleb was definitely playing Tzeentch, and he did really well at the event, and Nicholas was also playing with his Scooter. I'm just going to call him Scooter from now on, because I don't know if Nick cares or doesn't care. Anyway, they played each other in the final, and Caleb ended up winning the event. Okay. Caleb's list, let's talk about it. He's in Host Duplicitous, which gives him rerolls to cast, which is the important bit. Also means you can't retreat, which maybe is less of a big deal, but maybe important as well. He's got Lord of Change, who's a 2-cast wizard, don't talk to me about it, who's also bound to the Incarnate, because he has an Incarnate of Go in his list. His command trait is Will of the Phantom Lord, which I think is the one that gives the reroll casts. Kairos, and the Change Caster. Now, Kairos obviously has got his ability. He's a 3-cast wizard. He's got the ability to once per game change a dice roll depending on which, like on a certain set of things. So it's like 9 different things. And then the Change Caster is a 1-cast wizard. But if he ever casts spells on a 9+, then he gets to cast an additional spell, sometimes called the Wind Caster, mainly by me, because you can get him up to like 6 or 7 spells cast, which with the 5 casts that you're going to get from the Lord of Change and Kairos Fate Weaver means you can pretty much guarantee getting close to your 10 summoning points to get 10 blue horrors on the board. It's 12 points for an Exalted Flamer, and it's 20 points for 10 pink horrors. Now, 10 pink horrors is 50 wounds on the board, or just 10 summoning points is going to get you 20 wounds worth of blue horrors, because you get 10 blues and they explode into brimstone horrors. This is quite important because the list is pretty light. It's got 2 units of 10 Carrick Acolytes and a unit of 10 Zangor. Those 10 Zangor do have 20 wounds apiece. And then you've got the Kronspine Incarnate of Gur. Now, I've run Tzeentch at 3 events, actually, for this GHB. I would say the Incarnate is fairly necessary for a Tzeentch list, because the Tzeentch list is just going to get run over. It's a magical gun castle with almost no defense, other than the fact that you're -1 to hit demons in the book. That's about it. He also took Ravanax, Gnashing Jaws, Umbral Spell Portal, and Purple Son of Sheesh. Now, with the spellcasting that's also done, with the spellcasting that's also done by the enemy wizards, you should be able to get this summoning pool going quite fast. What's interesting is Caleb's decided not to go for like more casters, and that's kind of interesting because the Tzeentch rosters not actually got a lot of 2-cast wizards, and a lot of them are fairly weak for a bunch of different reasons, and they're quite expensive. So this Lord of Change, which is one of the only other 2-cast wizards, is 400 points, and you're really playing for that and that alone. He's also got a couple of things that he's done with his list. He's bound the Lord of Change to the Incarnate, which means he's going to get +1 to cast. In addition, he's got an agenda where if he casts 2 spells on a 9 or more, he's going to get another one to cast. And Lords of Change and Kairos, when they cast a spell, whatever the highest dice roll is, so let's say it's a 4 and a 2, you'll change the 2 to a 4, so you'll end up with an 8. However, with +1 to cast from the Incarnate and +1 to cast for the Agenda, that would immediately be a 10. So if you ever roll a 5, you'll immediately roll it'll become a 12, and if you ever roll a 6, that means you'll cast on a 14. So that's pretty effective casting. The output, damage-wise, is obviously come from the Crunchmine Incarnate, and importantly, is going to come from Kara's Fate Weaver, the Lord of Change, and the Changecaster. Between them, they've got a flat 6 mortal wound spell, 2 different spells that do d6 mortal wound piece. So that's already a lot of damage, but it's all in an 18-inch kill box, which is why these no retreat, the no retreat sub-faction is also quite good, because you can put units in front of you, yeah, and they can just hit you. And as Carl says in the chat, 400 points, no ward save or magical resistance. Yeah, magical bird, not resist magic. Anyway, but Caleb's been playing this list a while, and it's really exciting to see him do well with it. He should be super proud, super happy for him. Like, congratulations to him. He played his brother in the final, who came second, and he had Uruk War Clans. He had an Uruk War Chanter, a Fungoid Cave Shaman, a Mega Boss or Maw Crusher, an Uruk Mega Boss, and a War Chanter. Then he had 2 units of 6 Gore Grunters, a unit of 3 Gore Grunters, all in Bounty Hunters. That's a battalion that means that you get +1 damage against Galician Veterans, which are battle line units, which are less than 5 wounds and aren't mounted. Which is a load of different units. So you get +1 damage, which means those Gore Grunters will all have damage 3 profiles, because they start out damage 1, War Chanter makes it damage 2, and the Bounty Hunters makes it damage 3. Crazy output. And that includes the pigs. So that's the Rider and the pigs, which means you get 7 attacks per Gore Grunter, which are damage 3. Absolutely nuts. A unit of 3 pigs is going to be 21 attacks, and you could very comfortably have him on 3s to hit and 3s to... Oh, sorry, 2s to hit and 3s to wound with just 1 CP, obviously. And you can, in addition, if you want, call a war, which will get you an additional pip of rent. So of your 3 Gore Grunters, you're going to have, I think it's going to be 9 attacks, hitting on 2s, wound on 3s, rend 3, damage 3. For 170. Yeah. Not forgetting that they move 9 inches, but obviously you can use the Mighty Destroyer's ability to make them move in the hero phase, which means 18 inches. So it's very, very good. So there you go. So an amazing army. So both armies done really well, and actually both just really competent armies. So congratulations to both of them. So, the rest of the top 8, so don't forget these players will have played through 6 rounds, and I think maybe even gone into a shadow round, which is where there's just an additional round. They call it a shadow round because basically what the TOs want to ineptly point out is that they didn't really account for the numbers. They were like, oh no! The predicted amount of people have gone into a bracket. We're going to have to do another round to get them into the top 8. As seen every large event ever. That's what a shadow round means. Some people might not know. So Gavin, one of our stats leaders last year, was taking a Thunder Lizard Seraphon list. It had triple Bastillodon, 2 Arc of Sotex, and 1 Laserdon, Lord Croak, and everything else I've ever said about Thunder Lizard. Go back and watch every show ever. So shout out to Gavin. Noah was taking a pretty cool Beast of Chaos list, although very similar to lists that we've seen previously. But he had some a couple of cheeky little twists, which I quite enjoyed. But he did have the big block of 30 Zangor, which is really important. The Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, the Mind Stealer's Phalanx. So if the Shaggoth dies, he's still got the ability to do Roar, which is really cool. He had some Gore. He had 6 Enlightened as well. So that packs some big, massive punch, and 6 Dragon Ogres. So 6 Dragon Ogres are 250 points, 30 wounds on a 4-up armor save, which is great, and rally on a 4+. Or your big block of Zangor is 60 wounds, again rallying on a 4+, so your CP is your friend. He also took the Ravening Direflock as his and spell, which is a really nice little piece of tech. Marcella, lovely to see ladies doing well all through the week, taking Daughters of Cain and taking Marathi and the Bow Snakes. Jacob changing his list from Summer Slaughter, and I'm sure he might have been to an event between those two, running a Scaventide list, and this consisted of 2 units of Giselles, which are pretty good. Imagine long strikes for Stormcast Eternals, which are really good, and a Warp Lightning Cannon giving him some ranged threat, so you have to kind of keep honest and start moving towards him, which is quite nice, because he wants to hit you with a bunch of his other units, specifically his Verminlord Corruptor and his Verminlord Deceiver, which can skittle leap and teleport into your opponent's backlines. He's also got some Gutter Runners as well, so at any point when you move out of your castle, which you do have to do, so when you move out your deployment and unpack into the opposing army, because they're shooting you then he's got the ability to remove even more of your synergy with Gutter Runners and teleporting big Vermin Lords, do loads of damage, which I think is great. Jeremy was running a Daughters of Cain list, and this Daughters of Cain list is very similar to the Daughters of Cain list that we talked about last week, and also the one that we saw run by Jeffrey Mazura a few weeks ago. So it had 30 Witch Elves, it had the High Gladiatrix as well. So the High Gladiatrix kind of being a very important piece in being able to make big blocks of either Sisters of Slaughter or Witch Elves, be able to do some really high damage. So a real key piece in building non-Marathi and the Bow Snakes list. Also had a Cauldron of Blood. Jeremy also deserves a massive shout out because there was also an invitational match before the main tournament in which he was able to take out the invitational event with a Fireslayers list with like 5 Grimwrath Berserkers or Doomseekers or whatever it was. Really proving that the West Coast is better than the East Coast because no one was able to beat him with that list. I think that's true. So shout out to all the West Coast Warhammer players. Sorry for delving on you. Now it's the East Coast players who I think are terrible at Warhammer. If that helps you out. Then Bill Hennessy was running a Sylvaneth list. He had 6 Conothons Scythes. He had the Warsong Revenant. He had the Battle Mage, which was able to which gives you pluses to charge, and he also took the Spike Swarm Hive, which is then a spell, so you get the pluses to charge as you teleport through the woods, charge, fight, teleport away. Little cute thing he took was 10 Phoenix Guard in his list, so 175 points for 10 wounds on a 4-up armor save, but with a 4-up ward. So I think they have an effective wounds of 20, although I think the math actually is something weird, like it's 27.5, but that's basically what it is. And then the 10 wounds is just really good for holding an objective, which the Sylvaneth really struggle to do because they normally project power out of a castle. Imagine kind of like they just teleport something out and teleport something back, or that's some of the lists that we've seen do okay so far. Up until this week, which I think we're going to talk about later in the show, no one's gone 5-0 with Sylvaneth, so we've only had 4 ones. And Bill proudly continues on this tradition. Okay, looking at the 4 ones, and it's a prodigious cast of legends and heroes. That's right. Nick Rao has got himself a Cities of Sigmar Tempest Eye list, and he decided to take almost everything other than Cities of Sigmar units. He's gone for Tempest Eye. He's got a Rune Lord, Duralia Vendenced. Then he's got 10 Longbeards, 10 Dark Shards, 20 Iron Drakes, 6 Sky Wardens from Carriage and Overlords, 2 Dracothian Guard Fulminators from Stormcast Eternals, 3 Vanguard Paladors from Stormcast, and the Kronspine Incarnate of Gur. Now, the Fulminators and the Paladors, as well as the Sky Wardens, are all in Bounty Hunters. The 20 Iron Drakes, as well as the Longbeards and Dark Shards, were all in Expert Conquerors, so they count as 300 objectives. So yeah, a really, really fun list. He's going to be able to shoot twice the Iron Drakes, which is quite interesting. Kronspine Incarnate Gur means that there's a big monster in the Cities of Sigmar army to fight, which they don't really have access to. The Vanguard Paladors can nip around and attack units, which is pretty hot. And the Rune Lord is just 95 points. Did it go down up 5 points? No, it didn't. With the Arcane Tome turning it into a wizard, and then the Prayer Scripture Heal, which is interesting. Duralia is quite interesting because you don't normally see Duralia nowadays, especially in because she was like a key feature of the Living City list that we saw before Living City got FAQ'd, but obviously is in this. I mean, that's fantastic work there from Nick Rao. Calvin Rary was running a Bone Splitters list from Drakfoot. He had a Wurgog Prophet, another Wurgog Prophet, and a Savage Orc Big Boss. Some more boys, some Savage Orcs, and then loads of big stabbers. And then the Kronspine Incarnate, very much like we talked about last week, and as we've talked about every week, pre-game moves, loads of damage from the big stabbers, throwing mortal wounds when they die, and trying to just Wurgog Prophet up a load of stuff is going to be the key point there, doing all the mortal wounds as well as tank some of the units on the board. So that's how that list works. Then we've got Jordan Duncan was on Ironnet Deepkin, and this is a similar list to he ran at Capital City Bloodbath. It might be the similar list that he also ran at Summer Slaughter as well. Keelan King, Ishran Soulscryer, Soul Render, a unit of 20 Reavers and 2 units of 10 Reavers, which I think takes him up to about 80 shots at 3s and 3s, which is pretty crazy, and then a unit of 20 Thralls, which is good. Then he's got the Kronspine Incarnate of Gur. So the Incarnate obviously is going to be able to like hold a unit up while all of the shooting fights in. We've seen a lot of people try to run this Reaver list already. I don't think we've seen anyone 5-0 with it, but lots of people are 4-1 with it. So it feels like it's just missing something, maybe a points reduction, maybe another little unit to get it to like really like go across the, push it across the line. But I've seen this list in the UK, I've seen it in America, I have seen it also in Australia as well. So right now, not hitting that kind of like top that top benchmark, and I do wonder what needs to push it over the kind of the top. We had 2 Sons of Behemoth players all running something a little bit different. So shout out to them. We had Oliver Dempsey from Season of War, one of the best looking men in Warhammer. He's running Stomper Tribe. And then we had our very last place 4-1, Christopher Schelling was also running Sons of Behemoth Stomper Tribe. Christopher was running 3 Man Crushers and some Bigs, whereas Oliver was running certain 3. Yeah, so this is Chris's list with a War Stomper, a Kraken Eater, and a Gatebreaker, and then 3 Man Crushers. Then Oliver's version of that list was 2 Gatebreakers and 2 War Stompers in double bosses of the stomp. Personally, right now, and I know that Ziggy and Rob are currently crunching in the stats. We've had a couple of weeks off from actually updating the stats, but when they do come around, I'm pretty certain you're going to see the Mega Gargants in a good place, but not in a dominant place as they once were. So pretty good. Then we've got John Brock with Maggotkin and Nurgle, and there's a couple of Maggotkin and Nurgle lists in here, and they pretty much all work roughly the same. As you can see, they're both drowned men, so pre-game move. There's some Pusgoyle Blight Lords in there. There's some of the Maggoth Lords. So no great and clean ones in these lists, I'm pretty certain, but a Lord of Afflictions, which is a special character, and you give them a different loadouts. We've seen a load of different versions of this. But normally like overpowering stench or the 4-up ward save item or the or sometimes the wither stave. No, I think they can be a very clean one. There's stuff like that. Then you've got Pusgoyle Blight Lords as flying forward units. Then you've just got Blight Kings sometimes on the line, and then just like I say, you've got the actual Maggoth Lords, so Blobe or any of those other guys. So all really similar, but different. I'm sure Nurgle players, when you get into the nitty-gritty, the Nurgle players will tell you that, so I'm not sure whose version of this list is. This is Blobe, a Lord of Plagues, Lord of Afflictions, Orgots, and then 10 Blight Kings, 4 Blight Lords, and then 3 Nurglings. Those Nurglings are actually really fun for doing battle tactics, especially barge to enemy lines, versus our other Nurgle list, which is Blobe, Gutrot Spume, Orgots, Lord of Afflictions, 2 times 5 Blight Kings as opposed to a big unit of 10, then 2 units of 2 Pusgoyle Blight Lords, but no Nurglings. So all the same, basically. But they play very differently on the tabletop. I want to be really conscious of saying that I'm not bored of the Nurgle list. I think they're very dynamic and they're very interesting, but they generally tend to float around those key units for building a really interesting kind of play style. We then had Leo Rutunen with his Stormcast Eternals. Woohoo! From he used to be from the South London Legion, so Leo, kind of local boy to me, but flown over and lives in the US now, so playing a bunch of events. He was at NashCon. He had a Sillicent Prime, the Nitroconis, a Slan Starmaster. Little fun bit of tech with a Slan. The Slan gets +1 to cast, and he's also got the War Scroll spell Comet's Call. He also is a great ally for 265 points. Now, most endless spells say on their War Scroll that you have to cast spell with a wizard from that faction. The Beast of Chaos endless spells, for example, say that you have to cast them with a Beast of Chaos wizard. Fair enough. Yeah, Disciples of Tzeentch. However, the Everblaze Comet and all of the Stormcast spells do not say that. And so you are able to take an Everblaze Comet in your army, and the way that spellcasting, the way that summoning under spells works, is it's cast as a spell, and any wizard that's in your army, including allies, is able to cast it. There's going to be screeches and rees in the YouTube comments, I'm sure, but I promise you that works. So Leo's got the Slan in his army for that +1 to cast that's on his War Scroll, and for being able to cast Everblaze Comet, which is a great endless spell that does like AoE mortal wounds, which works super well in conjunction with 2 other things in this list. Specifically, it works really, really well with the Slan, who's got Comet's Call himself, which is able to do either D3 or D6, depending on if you cast it on a 10+, units, and they take D3 mortal wounds on a 4-up or 2-up. I can't remember which one. And the Celestant Prime, who's obviously got a shooting attack. He points his little stick at a point in 24 inches, and every unit within 6 inches or D3 mortal wounds. So he's got the opportunity on the very first turn to really bunker bust an army. So just like a big mortal wound, splash damage, area of effect, or AoE is known, like damage aura. The Slan is not an ally. That's correct. Even though it says allies, the Slan is always a foe. Like a big foe. And then on top of that, he's got the Night Draconis, and then 3x2 Stormdrake Guard. The Stormdrake Guard obviously have got mortal wound shooting, and Night Draconis can make them shoot twice. He's also got the Arcane Tome and Master Magic, and he's got Thundershot for even more mortal wounds. So really, really interesting list, like a little bit different to what you've seen previously, and just kind of showing that Stormdrake Guard are still good, even though they got that big hit. So shout out to Leo. Gareth Thomas with Blades of Corn deserves a big shout out because he's running a really interesting Blades of Corn list, which was not this. Not there we go. Bloodthirster and Infected Fury, Scarbrand, Bloodthirster and Sense Ray, Slaughter Priest, and then the Slaves of Darkness Demon Prince, then 3x5 Fleshhound, and the Kronspine Incarnate of Gur. There's some really nice stuff in here. Specifically, there's some really nice interactions with the Kronspine Incarnate of Gur, which I don't really need to mention, but being in the middle of the army is quite nice. It means it's something that you have to fight. Like, it's something you can't really ignore. It's really fast. It's really punchy. Something you have to fight, which means when you do get into the mid-board, it does mean that your big Bloodthirster and Infected Fury, which don't have the range, Scarbrand especially, don't have the range to like alpha you, so they don't really have all of the tools that they need to run across the army and just smack you into oblivion like Archeon used to do, as a good example. And so you need something to make them go into the mid-board. It's why Tzeentch do it as well. That's what they want the Incarnate for. They want you to go into the mid-board. It's what the Reavers do as well. They want you to go into the mid-board so they can attack you without being hurt, because you can't retreat away from the Incarnate. What they're also trying to do is make it so that Scarbrand can fight. And the other piece of tech in here is Slaves of Darkness Demon Prince, who's got Blood Slick Ground, which slows you down, doesn't speed you up, slows you down, so you can only declare any unit within, not even wholly within, 18 inches. When it rolls a charge, halves the charge, rounding up, which is so useful when you're able to do things like redeploy. So you'll move within 3 inches, because you can't get any closer than 3 inches of a unit, and then when they redeploy away, then if they just roll a 4+, it's impossible for you to charge. Because, well, actually, yeah, it's impossible for you to charge. Because then you'll have to roll a 12, that gets half down to a 6, and they're 7 inches away, so you can't do the charge. Right? So it's just very, very effective, that Slaves of Darkness Demon Prince. There's a limited lifetime on that, because we already know that when the Slaves of Darkness book comes out, because of the leaks, that it's going to be changed. But right now, incredible piece of tech. So he's got 2 ways in this army for the Blades of Corn army, which is not doing well on the stats, really low win percentage, to kind of control you and make you be in the mid-board, as well as having 3 units of screens in them Fleshhounds, 2 wounds apiece, 10 wounds for 105 points, on cavalry bases, so they're quite wide. You can make a big screen, which is really nice, and then people just charge you. And then if they can charge you, they charge a screen or an Incarnate, and then you can actually hit them with your Bloodthirsters. You can actually hit them, yeah, which is great. Love hitting people with Bloodthirsters. Christopher Johnson was running Soulblight Gravelords with Legion of the Blood. I missed Owen. Oh, how did I miss him? And his... Hold on. He's got Manfred Neferata. Manfred's a great piece inside this army. He can make it so you can generate additional attacks from his unit if he doesn't fight, or if you charge him, he can retreat away, which is really, really powerful. Neferata's got a great spell to make it so that you can more rend, which is really good, and has got the ability to auto slay a unit, which I really like as well. 365 points for Neferata, I honestly feel pretty good. And then a Vampire Lord for +1 attack onto the units. 2 units of 5 Black Knights, and then 2 units of 10 Death Rattle Skeletons, but they count as 30 on objectives, which is quite nice. and then 10 Blood Knights, and then 20 Graveguard. Now, the trick here with the Blood Knights is that you cast Mystic Shield on them, and then you do Neferata. Neferata makes it so you ignore negative modifiers to your save. So you can have a 2-up, or, if you all-out defense, a 1-up unrendable save. You still fail your armor saves on a roll of a 1, but it does mean that they're very survivable because they're 3 wounds each. That's 30 wounds with a 2-up armor save. And you can't pin them in combat because they can retreat out with their ability and do mortal wounds. Great. 20 Graveguard, they fight. That's what they do. They've got those Great White Blades, which are damage 2, and then we're in Bounty Hunters, so against Galley Vets, they'll be damage 3, and they'll just do tons and tons of damage. Tons of damage. It's a great list. It's cool. I really like it. It's really fun. Loads of moving parts. Really susceptible to shooting. But hey, 4-1 is great. A fantastic result, and I would be super happy to do that. Our Sylvaneth lists were different to each other. Oh no, we got. Oh, I talked about the one Sylvaneth list. This is Owen's Sylvaneth list. That's slightly different. I don't think I've talked about, and I haven't talked about Walter's OCR Bone Reapers. For you chat. Moment. If you are watching this back on YouTube, thanks for watching it. If you listen to it as a podcast, please stay hydrated. If you're watching it back on YouTube, please do like and subscribe and leave comments. It really helps, and share it with your friends if you enjoyed it, obviously. So he's got a True Lord Ancient, an Arch Rev, and a Battle Mage, and then 2x6 Colonel Hunters, 1 with bows, 1 with scythes, 5 Tree Revenants, and 3 Revenant Seekers, Purple Sun, and Spice Swarm Hive. And his general is the True Lord Ancient with Spell Singer, so you can cast spells through the woods. The Lord of the Deep, the Dwellers Below. The True Lord Ancient, only a 1-cast wizard, pretty embarrassing. Being able to cast spells through a tree is pretty cool. And then the Arch Revenant with the Arcane Tome, making it a 3-cast wizard, and Verdurous Harmony. So what he's going to be able to do here is return 2 Colonel Hunter models to a unit per one of his turns, which is crazy, in addition to stuff like Rally. So, and that's from the Revenant Seekers, which is really, really effective. And he's a 1-drop army, so he's going to be able to cast Purple Sun through a Wildwood straight away. That, in addition, Archrev is a little one. Archrev is a little one. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. You're going to make him a 2-cast wizard? A 2-cast wizard, not a 3-cast wizard. The Archrev's going to give them +1 to wound to the Colonel Hunters with great bows, and he might even be able to get the guys with scythes in. But basically, shoot with your bows, cast spells out, bop in with your scythes, and bop out, heal everything up, don't die. That's basically the trick. So there you go. And then, that's Owen's list. And then, OCR Bone Reapers is a fun list that also went 4-1. A lot of armies will go 4-1 at such a big event. And that is here. Arcan the Black and Catacross together in Petrifex Elite, so ignore First Pippa Rend. And then the Liege Cavalos, and then 10 Mortek Guard, 20 Mortek Guard, 10 more Mortek Guard, a Mortek Crawler, and a Gothazar Harvester. Now, the Harvester returns a slain one of the Mortek each time on a 4+. So that's quite nice, because you can put that behind the big brick of 20 Mortek Guard. It's very unlikely they're going to die. Mortek Crawler is going to fire shots across the board and is going to do 5 damage apiece, but it has no rend. But that's quite fun. It doesn't have any endless spells. And then Catacross is a fighting support piece, make units -1 to hit. Also steal command points off them, which is really good in this meta, especially when you go first. If you steal one of those CP, then they're going to be very light on command points. Then Arcan's got the ability to do loads of spells at range. So congratulations to them. And I think that's everyone in the 4-1 bracket. Oh, the Seraphon. No offense, Basil. Inferna. Inferara, sorry. No offense, Basil. You're beautiful and fantastic in every single way. So no offense to you. And then Anthony Trendelli did Disciples of Tzeentch. Great. I think I haven't opened all the lists out, chat. That's what's happened. All the Seraphon were similar or the same lists, if that helps you out. And he was running Fate Weaver, Lord of Change, Cronspine, and the Changecaster. Oh, nice. He was literally running the same list as Caleb, who won the event. So fantastic. Fantastic. And that would be really interesting because pretty certain that they played next to each other at Summer Slaughter. So Anthony Trentinelli just inspired to run that list. So congratulations to him. Dale Irvin was running a Legion of the First Prince list with a cast of characters. The Legion of the First Prince list consisted of a Bloodthirster and Sense of Rage, Kara's Fate Weaver, Be'lakor, Slave to Darkness, Demon Prince, Contorted Epitome, Bloodletters, Fleshhounds, Umbral Spellport, and Life Swarm. Life Swarm is to heal the characters. The Contorted Epitome's got the Fourfold Blade, which does tons of damage. Tons and tons of damage. Slave to Darkness, Demon Prince, so you can't charge, like I said earlier. The half charges with range. Be'lakor with Dark Mastery to shut down units so it can't move. So you've got some incredible control. Is it the Fourfold Blade? Yeah, the Fourfold Blade, yeah. And then you got the Kairos with the ability for Kairos to not only do flat 6 mortal wounds and generate a spawn within 36 inches because of the spell portal, but also has got the Kairos dice to shut something down. And then the Bloodthirster of Incense and Rage. For being able to do all of the damage in melee. So, I think that's everything. I think that's all of the lists. Yes, and Basil, no offense, and any of the Seraphon list. You know what's in the list. Okay, that's Nova. So, congratulations to everyone who played at Nova. I hope you had a lovely and wonderful time. And on to the next event. In England, we had the War in the North, AOS GT. 14 players battled it out, and we had our very first 5-0 with Sylvaneth in the World, run by James Mackenzie, Mr. MMX James. He was running a Sylvaneth list in Heartwood. He had an Arch Revenant with the Arcane Tome, which is +1 to wound Kurnoths with 12 inches. And then a Warsong Revenant, which is able to do spells 3 thanks to the Spell Singer. 6 Kurnoth Hunters with great bows, shooting 30 inches in damage with +1 to wound. With +1 to hit in addition, I think it makes it 2 trees, or it might even make it 2s. Yeah. 5 Tree Revenants and 20 Dryads. Chronomantic Cogs for reroll casts, which is really useful on the spells, especially Spell Singer being able to cast spells through woods. 3 Revenant Seekers, which will return one model to a Kurnoth Hunter unit every player turn. Pretty great, as well as being like a little fighty unit. And then 6 Spite Rider Lancers, meaning that he's going to be able to. Is he in Heartwood? Can he? Oh, he's in Heartwood. So the Kurnoths are battle line. So you can't pre-game move them, but what he can do with his Spite Rider Lancers is move them forward, charge them, and teleport them back, or teleport them through a Wildwood, run away. See. Hasn't gone for any endless spells, which is a little bit of a breakaway from what a lot of the Sylvaneth players have done. And I personally kind of agree with this. If you look at a lot of the Sylvaneth lists, what they'll do is they'll take the Spite Swarm Hive, which is like +3 move, +3 charge. They'll also take the Battle Mage from Cities of Sigmar, the Battle Mage of Gur, which gives you an additional +2 to charge or something like that. Which means you have basically a +5 to charge on a unit, and it's a 4, which means you've got a 4-up rerollable charge to charge into your opponent, which means you can teleport through a Wildwood, get a big charge off, and then you the Strike and Fade Away ability to teleport back. However, you're investing 140 points and 2 casts into making that happen because you're paying for the Spite Swarm Hive, paying for the Battle Mage Gur. I personally think that points could be better spent in lists. As you can see, it's not in here. And instead he's got Battle Regiment and he's got Bounty Hunter. So the Lancers, because Lancers go fast enough. You move into the midboard, and your army has to move towards you because you've got 6 Bow Hunters. Love that list. Absolutely love it. Great job, James. Proud of you. In our 4-1 bracket, we only had 1 player, but it was Logan Garton. Shout out to Logan. And he was running Ogre Boil Tribes in Boulderhead. He had a Frostlord on Stonehorn and another Frostlord on Stonehorn, which is a bit of a break from tradition because he then also had a Huskard on Stonehorn, a Butcher, then he had Stonehorn Beast Riders and 2 units of Morfang Pack. Again, a break from tradition. Normally, Ogre lists are full of gluttons and man-eaters, is what you often see in these lists. However, these are kind of like pre Sons of Behemoth. They count as 10. They count as 10 on objectives. Really good for holding objectives, and they do big damage. They're also fairly survivable. 3-up armor saves or 4-up armor saves, and then 5-up wards, which is really good, so they're able to take a lot of damage. The problem is they bracket quite heavily, and that can become a bit of an issue, I think. Yes. And and just to wrap this all up from this event, do you know what you get when you leave your dryads out in the rain? Wet ads. Our next event takes us to New Zealand, home of the hobbits and Sauron and everyone. I think the whole Lord of the Rings is there. They must get so bored of that. I don't know. However, I mean, what would you choose? You got a choice. You either got Lord of the Rings, or you got Mad Max, Australia. So those are your two options. Anyway, thanks to James Struthers for sending me the lists on Twitter. I really appreciate it. So this was an event in Wellington in New Zealand. That's right, they play Warhammer. In fact, some of the better Warhammer players in the world actually play in New Zealand. And it'd be really fun to see them be able to form a team and be able to get over to AOS Worlds. AOS Worlds is predominantly held in Europe because it's really easy for a huge host of nations to be able to go play. However, obviously, some of the bigger nations, the more distant nations, like Australia, New Zealand, the US, Cuba, who do have Sigmar events, sometimes struggle to get over. I hope they're able to get it. Okay, so Lockie had a Nighthaunt list. He had Scarlet Doom. So there's only 3 4-1s. 2 Spirit Torments. Don't forget they return 3 models to a unit at the end of each combat phase, even if they haven't been in combat. It's crazy good. And then a Krulgas Crusader who's got an aura for -1 damage to a minimum of 1. And then a Guardian of Souls for also, I think, also to heal some models back into unit. Then 9 Spirit Hosts, which are kind of a fighter unit in of themselves, but importantly, with 3 wounds apiece, that's 27 wounds on a 4-up save with 6-up ward, who are able to tank wounds for the characters. They can bodyguard the characters. Then 2 units of 10 chain rasps for screens, but they're also an expert conquerors, so maybe also just for counting as loads on objectives. The 9 Spirit Hosts are also in expert conquerors as well, so those 9 Spirit Hosts are going to count as 27 on objectives. Then 2 units of 20 Blade Guys for Evidence, which are incredibly fighty. They do loads of damage, and they're just really, really good. Then the key piece to this army is the Mimron Banshees. They've got a 12-inch aura, so Holy Within, and basically they get to roll against spells that would affect a unit in your army, even if you've already tried to unbind the spell that's cast on it. So if I was trying to do Gift of Change from Kairos, which does flat 6 mortal wounds into one of these units, then what would happen is you try to unbind it with a wizard, and then if it affects a unit in range of the Banshees, they also can roll again against the casting, not against the casting value, but against what it is to cast, so the 8, which is pretty interesting. Like if I roll a 12, they wouldn't be trying to stop a 13, they'd be trying to stop an 8. This also affects endless spells as well, so it's really hard to push endless spells or debuff this army as well. The army's got retreat and charge, but retreat is... But the army's got retreat and charge. When it charges in, then it debuffs the enemy army as well, and it's also got the Purple Sun in the list. Lockie, shout out to you. Great list, well put together. Most importantly, Lockie deserves a massive shout out for building 9 Spirit Hosts. Thanks to Dan from the Hertfordshire Wargamers for subscribing in the chat. A great group of people, and you should check them out if you ever go play some Warhammies. Alex Sinclair ran No Breaks on the Stakes. He ran Marathi and the Bow Stakes. So congratulations to him. And then James Struthers was running Iron Jaws, running Bloodtooths, and he had a Mega Boss and Maw Crusher, 2 War Chanters, 3 times 6 pigs, all in a battle regiment, 10 Ard Boys, and then 5 Ard Boys. Moves twice, charges in, does loads of damage. Have a great time. Fantastic event. Love to go to New Zealand and see all the New Zealand bros and live stream their Warhammer games. Certain that they're brilliant at Warhammer. Hope they had a great day. Hope they had a great weekend. My love to you. See you soon. Our next event is the MIDTCON GT in Denmark. It was hosted by Morten Holst, who is actually the head of the LEGO organization over in Denmark and a huge fan of bacon in addition. The event was won by, apologies. It had 28 players at this event, and it was won by Casper Golden Boy Carl Moose. And if we take a moment to look at his list, you can see he's got a Stormcast Eternals Astral Tempers list. I'm pretty certain Astral Tempers ignore monstrous reactions, which is quite a cool trick, I think. He's got Celestant Prime. Now, Celestant Prime drops down, does damage with his hammer, and can be, his put into Deep Strike and Reserve, and then drops down, does mortal wounds in the little area, and then does damage with his hammer. But in addition, and also important to point out, the Lord Celestin on Star Drake is in this list, who also does Rain of Stars, Stars of Rain, Starfall. Anyway, it's got a shooting attack, which basically does mortal wounds across the board at like individual enemy units. I think it might be D6, might be D3, whatever it is. However, there's also a Slann in this list, which we already talked about this earlier in the show, is going to be casting Everblaze Comet. So as you can see, this list has got a couple of iterations already, which have been doing well at different parts of the world. So we've got Denmark and the USA, where we've seen people allying in the Slann, taking the Everblaze Comet, and then doing mortal wounds at range. In this version, Celestin Prime is also in the list as well, and the Celestin Prime for also dropping down that damage. Then he's got Unit Vindicators, 2 units of 3 Vanguard Paladors, which are genuinely great in a fight, very fast, and they've got a good shooting profile, and they're 215 points. Big Palador fan. I think probably the most recent example of those Paladors being used was being by Freddie Leggett here in the UK. I don't want to say it was him definitely who was using them, and my friend Francois uses them a lot as well in Quebec, over in Montreal. But those Paladors have got some real good output, especially for 215 points. They're 5 wounds apiece. That's 15 wounds on a 4-up armor save. They're quite good. Then there's 3 Vanguard Raptors with long strike crossbows. And he's also got the Holy Command Thunderbolt Volley. So he's going to be able to shoot them in the hero phase and then in the shooting phase. So he's got in my opinion, he's got the ability to take out lots of your synergy at range on the very first turn, and then tank a load of stuff with the Lord Celestin on Star Drake. Quite an interesting list. Quite an interesting list. I would have loved to have seen his games play. I think it would be very mobile. It would be, it would have some real like scalpel output, especially with the mortal wounds and the shooting. Very interesting list, and it's a list, it's a list you aren't able to sit away from as well, because this list is just going to do damage at range. So you have to go at it. You have to go and grab it. Quite interesting. So really like this list, and congratulations to them for playing such a cool list and doing so well. Okay, exciting. Exciting. The 4-1 category. Okay, so Christian Moeller was running a Magikin and Nurgle list, and very similar to Magikin and Nurgle list we talked about earlier. There were some Blight Kings, Pushko Blight Lords, and there were some Maggoth Lords. Yannick Teague was running Destruction Ironjaw's list, and again, it was a Mega Boss and Maw Crusher and some Gore Grunters. Really fantastic. Love that. Casper was running a Nighthaunt list. So Casper's list, just to be clear, had 2 units of 20 Bladegeist Revenants, another unit of 10, sorry, 2 more units of 10. Then a Krulgas Cruciator, Guardian Soul, Spirit Torment, and another Krulgas Cruciator for the double stack. So even if you're damage 3, you go down to damage 1, which is really good. And then the Mimron Banshees, and I already told you what the Mimron Banshees do for being able to shut down spell casting against the army. So just really, really, really good. Then we've got 2 Soulblight Gravelords lists, which is fun. Our first one is Manfred Neferata Vengori Lord, some Deathlock Skeletons, and then 10 Blood Knights, and then another 5 Blood Knights. And then our other Soulblight Gravelords list is Legion of Blood again, Neferata Manfred Vampire Lord, Black Knights, Zombies, Skeletons, and then 10 Blood Knights, and then 20 Graveguard with Cogs and Purple Sun. So very similar to what we talked about when I deep dived earlier about the Soulblight Gravelords list, but these Blood Knights with Neferata really starting to make some big impact in the tournament scene, going 4-1 again and again. Last version of Age of Sigmar, we saw a lot of zombie lists do quite well. It was the zombies and the Graveguard that were able to get all the additional stacks, and they were able to do a lot of damage. The reason I don't think you're seeing that now, and you're seeing Soulblight Gravelords players switch over to a different build, is specifically because they're Galician veterans, and you get additional +1 damage into those zombies. So people have left their zombies at home. You could say they've buried them for a bit. Anyway, and then they've taken their 3-up armor save non-Galician veteran units, and and they've put them in the list for all the additional damage as well. So that's Denmark. Now I got the opportunity to meet some of these guys. At AOS Worlds. They're wonderful people. I guess if they've got tournaments that you can travel to internationally, I'd make the opportunity to go there if you get the chance. Our last event for the week is the Room and Rumble. The Rum and Rumble, which is an event that I hold here at the TSN Arena, which is based in Nottingham. It was free rum all weekend, and they only got through like 2 bottles of rum, which, like, was. There's also, I had to play a spare player. I had a lovely time. Me and my friend Adam, who turned up for the event as well, we just spare played for the weekend. We kind of tagged in and out. We ran the stupidest list ever with a 6 of 6 and a 3 of Flamers in Tzeentch with Kairos and an Incarnate. But there's nothing worse than watching your very good friend Jack with his Seraphon Fangs of Sotek list, taking your army off, having not slept the night before because they got so hammered on rum that they ended up in a nightclub until 5 a.m. and then didn't go home and crashed at my house, and then proceeded, while still very drunk but lovely, taking all of my miniatures off the board with his Seraphon army. Heartbreaking. I was sober. I just had a nice cup of tea. It was just a heartbreaking moment. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, so the Rum and Rumble, Hazel won this event, so with 4 and a draw, and then Matt Goldsborough with 4 and a draw in second place. And if you look at so obviously we do win-loss draw, and then we do VP differential. Only a point in it. Which is amazing. A special shout out to Peter Dixon, who not only got top ogre player at this event, but also got best sports. We also do a sports differential, which I actually really like. I don't know if other tournaments do it, but maybe an idea where you rate your games out of 5, 5 getting you 5 points, and then 1, like your 5th favorite game, getting you only 1 point, which means basically you get more of an aggregate of how your games were. So if someone was always kind of like really fun and just got like a 4 and a 4 and a 4 and a 4 and a 4, then that would be good. And obviously he scores out of 25. Peter was able to get 24 out of 25, so he should be super happy with that. Of course, VP differential, let's start doing that in 40k. Yeah, I think WinPath's terrible, but anyway, who am I? Like, they had VP differential staring at them in the face, and they were like, no, we'll do WinPath, so that you can keep doing the terrible 94, 92 point wins that 40k currently is. Hate it. So in theory, we can have worse sports. Yes, that's really what it is. If you actually get worse sports, I egg you. I have a carton of 12 eggs, and I just egg you. It's a disaster, so, you know. But you can come to my events whenever you want. Anyway, let's talk about Hazel's list. She was running Iron Rack with the Soul Scryer, Achillean King, or the Slap King, as it's known, with the Arcane Tome and Flaming Weapons. 20 Reavers, 10 Reavers, 6 Morsar Guard, then 2 Achillean Alapexes, all with Razor Shell Harpoon, all in the Battle Reg. So the Alapexes can shoot really far, move 14 inches, shoot 24, 38 inches effective range, 4 shots each. That's going to be 8 shots, 16 shots coming out of this army that are D3 damage. I would just like to point out 1 Alapex is more wounds, cheaper, and almost the same output as 3 Flamers, but I'm not bitter at all. Then the Achillean Morsar Guard. This is kind of something that's been quite interesting, that Hazel's been running a lot, which I find quite fun, especially because I think it's in Bounty Hunters. So this is quite an interesting kind of thing, because you don't really get a lot of output in this army. Like, the output that you do is pretty elite. You get really good... Sorry, you do get a lot of output, but your output is fairly elite because a lot of people, unless you're running loads and loads of Reavers, you don't have a lot of weight of dice. So I really like the Morsar Guard for being able to deal with big units, because in Bounty Hunters they're going to be damaged too, and there are 2 weapon profiles on Morsar Guard with a lot of attacks. So I think actually it's quite a lot of damage, which I really like that a lot. 20 Namati Reavers, which is going to be 40 shots at range, which is really good. The Achillean King can run and charge and fight and just do, damage 3. Thank you. It's either damage 3 or damage D3 plus 1 on the Morsar Guard. So it's a very cute little trick in the list, and I really like it. And then some and there's another unit of Reavers, so actually 60 shots at range. So 16 shots that do D3 damage, 60 shots as weight of dice, an incredibly fighty King, and the Soul Scryer. Like, just really, really good. Hello to 3 Geese in a Trench Coat. First time chatter. Different to 3 Grots in a Trench Coat. Really interesting. Yeah, so love that. Well done to her. And then returning, blast from the past, the shuffler returns, Mr. Matt Goldsborough, who is a vibe. That's the only way I'm going to describe him. Matt Goldsborough is a vibe. Goldsborough is a vibe. If you ever get the chance to play against him or just be around him, he's just a vibe. He's just a vibe. Very much like Josh. no matter how much. I won't make the joke, actually. Anyway, so he was running Sire for his Lumineth Realm Lord's army. He had Archmage Teclis, an Enlightener, and then 20 Wardens, 10 Wardens, and then 30 Sentinels with a Spell Portal and a Life Swarm. He was using the new Enlightener's ability to cast an additional spell, because I did FAQ it that was in effect, but old points and old War Scrolls for everything else was in effect, because it's kind of weird, because you assume the FOMO box, which is where they released some Lumineth Realm Lords units, you assume that those are in the new book, but you've got worse War Scrolls and different pointed War Scrolls without seeing what all of the Allegiance abilities changes are to the book. But I didn't think including one of the units was a bad thing. I don't know. I probably should have just said no FAQ, no play, and just banned it straight off. That should have been fine, but I didn't care, because who cares? Because it's called the Rum and Rumble. You get an idea of what people are up to. We're drinking rum, we're playing Warhammer, we're having a great time. Yeah, that's what we do at the TSN Arena. We have fun. But yeah, great list. 30 Wardens, rerolls to hit, mortal wounds, spell portal for the Technado. It's got 5-up ward, aura against against damage. Then -1 to hit. They've got 4-up armor saves. They could be 3-up armor saves. They can shoot 30 inches. They can move twice. They can teleport and shoot. They can reroll to hit. They can make you minus bravery. They can make you minus to move. It's just ridiculous. The options that you have because of Teclis is outrageous, but you are paying those points from 740 points. So those 20 Wardens, 10 Wardens are doing a lot of heavy lifting in the army, which is why the Emerald Life Swarm's in there to just try and heal those units back, because you want the Sentinels to never get hit through the game. So yeah, really, really interesting list. So in conclusion, very diverse lists, doing very well all across the world. What's also really interesting is similar lists are being played in different parts of the world, but simultaneously doing well at the same time. As an example, our Slan allied in with a Comet is something pretty new, and we haven't seen that anywhere else. But then we haven't seen that over the past few weeks, and then we've started to see it now all over the place. Very interesting. Not as many Beasts of Chaos as there once were. The only real example I can think of is Noah out there in the US of A. A variety of different lists. Very few Lumineth doing well, very few Deepkin doing well, but there's some examples of them. There's Khorne doing well, Skaven doing well, Gargant's doing well, just a whole bunch of different armies doing well all across the world. And that's really exciting, because it means that the game is really open at the moment, which means that you can build loads of different armies and you can see loads of different units on the tabletop. It also means you're not going to face the same army over and over and over again at a tournament, which is a bit heartbreaking. And so, really exciting. What's the luck of the draw going to be? Really excited to see what the meta representation is going to be as well. But yeah, really fun. Really fun. At the minute, when we do get the stats updated for this edition, I will do a singular stat show where I actually look at the numbers, but just waiting for Ziggy and Rob from the stats team to put that together. And they will at some point, but no pressure. They can do it whenever they like, because it's free, so they can take their time and do whatever they want to. But yeah, loads of love. Hope you enjoyed the show. I'm live every Monday on Twitch with the Twitch chat you can see here if you'd like to join me and chip in with your thoughts and feelings. The links to all the show notes, the links to all the lists are below. Thanks for tuning in and supporting the Honest Wargamer. Thank you to everyone on the Honest Wargamer Patreon, without whom I can't and shan't do this show. So anyway, thanks very much and see you soon.